Yes, we're good. We're red, but we're good. Okay. Hi, I'm the Witchfinder, aka Eric, and I'm out of character today, using my regular voice, which is a little different than my Witchfinder voice. Some people might be thrown off by that, but if you're a longtime viewer of the channel or whatever you're watching this on, you've probably heard it before. And my guest today is the co-owner of the Salem Museum of Torture. I want to make sure I said that right. And your name is?
Chad O'Connell.
Chad O'Connell. And we're going to be talking today because I reached out to you because the Torture Museum, or Museum of Torture, is somewhat controversial.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much. I've never done a poll or anything like that. But I would just imagine it would be. And when you and I talked a little bit, you mentioned that, yes, we do get feedback from time to time. And I said, well, I kind of am the same way as the Witchfinder character, because even though, it only happens a handful of times a year.
Right.
Maybe not even that. Maybe once a year. But someone will come up and say, you're exploiting a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you get some kind of feedback around the same kind of thing, especially where your museum is not based around Salem or the witch trials. It's just torture in general.
Right.
So I thought it would be worth talking to you
Absolutely.
and getting your side of things and putting it out there for people to see. And we can talk about me a little bit too, and just go from there.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Yeah. So when did you open up?
So this is our third year running. Every year we've kind of gone through a major transformation. The first year we were just a basement space, simply because real estate is very difficult in Salem and in general to find something, and then to find something zoned in the right areas for a museum as well. So we started off in a basement and we're just expanding every year, and we've grown, and this is our third year, but we got a new door on the street, so now we're more visible to the public, and we're becoming more of an entity in the city finally. So
yeah, and it's actually kind of a lucky location because you're literally like a block away from where the actual Salem jail was.
Yes.
The 1692
jail.
Yes,
absolutely. I think this land at one point was part of that whole plot, but it's been since divided up.
And you're not too far from Essex Street, also about a block or two over.
2 blocks over, and then just we're first stop from the commuter rail too. So once you get off the train, we're probably the first stop going into town.
That's true. Okay, so tell us about the museum, why you started it, what's inside, all that good stuff.
Right. So we started the Museum of Torture. We've owned several museums before this, but I was very interested in opening this simply because of how things are going in the world. I think people need to be reminded of how dangerous it can be when things get out of control, and when people are forgetting quickly about how it wasn't that long ago that we were suffering the effects of horrific, basically the foundations of law were a mess. And I'm seeing how things are happening where we could easily slip back into a time where it could happen again. It makes me nervous for the world that we think of torture as a medieval concept when it's a tale as old as time. It's been since the dawn of humanity. It's been used on people, and it's a warning. Everything is a warning that we've already gone through to respect the past, no matter how horrible it is. Otherwise, it will repeat itself. So I opened this place, and our goal, more than education, is activism. So we work a lot with Amnesty International and human rights organizations to try to keep this under control. It can never be completely eliminated, obviously, because that would be impossible. But there are laws in nearly every region of the world now against torture, and Amnesty International goes in with spies and just makes sure everything's on the up and up, but it never really is. So we do need that kind of force in the world to keep things going. Otherwise, it's going to get out of control again.
Yeah, and actually one of the things that's really unique about your museum, I can't think, and I've been to all of them, I can't think of another museum or other kind of tourist attraction in Salem that doesn't end in the gift shop.
Right, that was a very important point for us. We could have easily rerouted the entire museum so that it kind of looped back around into the gift shop if we're looking for a quick cash grab or something. We decided to end the museum basically with a warning and a message of kindness because that's the impression we want you to leave with. We don't want you to come back out here and buy a shirt with, I don't know, somebody burning on it or something. You should have, we're looking to pull an emotional experience out of you to get you to want to learn more about it and do something about it.
So obviously, like I said, that's a unique thing about the place, and it's part of your mission. But on the other hand, too, we can't pretend that some of the items you sell in the gift shop, as well as some of the displays that you have, might be seen by some in a controversial light, or they might say it's in poor taste, or that it's exploitive. What would you say about that?
Well, I have gone over this many times in my head before I even opened this place, and I decided that if I wanted to reach as many people as possible and educate as many people as possible about history, which nobody really wants to learn about history unless you're a history buff. You leave high school, you're not interested in it. I hated history leaving high school because they don't teach you about anything interesting. So the only way that I could get a younger generation in here, actually the generation that it will be up to take care of this once we're out of here, the only way to get them to learn is to completely immerse them in something. We live in an age of technology where wax museums just don't really give the same impact they used to back in the day. Everything is full of technology and has to be all in your face. So we decided to make this completely immersive. So it almost felt like you were going through a haunted house, but it's not a haunted house. It's just a place for learning. So the only way to get younger generation interested in something is to make it more of an experience than just a white wall museum. It would be boring for everyone and nobody would stop to read anything if it was just a box.
I think another thing that people forget is that when people come to Salem, they want the spooky side.
Well, they didn't come here because of our wonderful maritime history. They came here because we have a dark
I'm sure there's
history.
been a couple people.
No, there's absolutely have, but the large percentage of tourists that come here with witch hats on aren't coming here for that. They're coming here for a darker history. Not that we have a lot of that actually to provide to them, back to them. There's some places that go over it, but it's pretty skimmed over in the large one.
Yeah, I always, I have my own thoughts about all the different museums and tourist places in Salem. My flat statement is that I can enjoy any of them in a certain way, with one exception, which is terrible. But I won't even name it. But there's one place that if you talk to me in person, I'll tell you. It's not here. I'll tell you later. But in general, yeah, you can get different things out of them. But are you going to get a deep understanding of history and really learn what happened during the trials? No, you're not. Not even at the Witch Museum, the 1692, which is not a knock against them. Again, and they're not the museum either. They do give. They have so many people come through per day, and if it ain't broke, why fix it? So even though some of the narration might be a little out of date, even though some of the mannequins might not be in the best shape, it just is what it is. That's what Salem is. That's what people come for. Part of what they come for. There are people who come and want a real sense of history, and when they do, they're glad they bumped into someone like me, who, even though, like I said, there are people that come up and will say, "You're exploiting a tragedy." Well, if you look for pictures of the Witchfinder through all the years, until I was getting married, I never had an actual tip jar.
Mm-hmm.
I was out there for free. And yes, I do mix in some humor, and I do mix in storytelling, and I have fun with people in a kind of darkly comical way. But I am not a professional historian, but I did go to school for theater, not just theater, musical theater, the Boston Conservatory. So I'm classically trained, and that's just performance is my background. So that's what I do. That's what I bring. So I feel like people hopefully will accept that, like you said, it's not just about giving a history lecture. It's also about entertaining tourists.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't say, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but I would imagine you would say as well that we're not speaking pejoratively of tourists. people come for different things, and the festival atmosphere of Salem is part of what makes it so fun and so magical. That all kinds of different things are
Yeah, I
accepted.
mean, I understand this place is very niche. It's not for everybody. I don't expect everybody to come in here or want to come in here or want to learn about this kind of thing. But if they are interested, then they will come here. This kind of thing is nothing new in Europe. This is, on every street corner in Europe, but Europe celebrates their dark history a lot differently than America does. Even in Salem, a lot of tourists come here. I When I moved here, I don't know, 15 years ago, and they'd want to see where the witches were hung, and we couldn't provide that. We didn't have that information. And like, as the city grows, and we're still learning from the past, because a lot of that got covered up. A lot of times when tragedies happen, they get covered up, and then you forget about them, and then they happen again, which is exactly why we are here, to prevent that from happening on mass scale again, which can very easily happen again.
Yeah, at the risk of sounding too controversial, so I won't mention specific topics, but people ask me all the time, they're like, oh, well, this kind of thing couldn't happen now, where people would actually be put to death and, for some kind of thing that doesn't even make sense. And I say, oh, yeah, things, not only could it happen, things have happened
And they will
in the
happen
United
again.
States.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming any particular president or whatever, but like I'm not talking about, you can look back and see different things from different people.
Yeah, it's not a political thing. It's just, this is how history works. It's that people forget, and then it happens again. Even with torture, it still happens. It just doesn't. It's not done in public anymore, and people forget that once it's out of sight, out of mind. Then they think it's over, and they think this is a medieval concept. But this is happening in the military. It's happening during war. It's happening everywhere. It's just in a different form.
But how do you try to balance the entertainment factor versus the real history?
Well, the entertainment factor is only in the aesthetics of the building. The history is all in the objects and the information, and that's where the focus is. There's no animatronics. There's no, talking skeletons. It's not like that. It's basically built so you can just feel like you're in a castle and looking at a collection. It's not. It's not a haunted house. I get that question a lot. Is it a haunted house? Are things going to jump out? And no, it's not built to be a haunted house. I'm not here to scare you. I'm just here to make you feel, just to pull out a little extra emotion, whether it be fear or anger or sadness. We've had people leave just tears just from being empathetic to the situation and what's going on here. But it's meant to pull something out of you, and whatever emotion it pulls out of you, it worked essentially.
Yeah. So we already talked a little bit about how, when you leave the exit door. There's a plea for donations to Amnesty International, as opposed to a gift shop, which is every other place in Salem, which makes total sense from a business standpoint. But you do things a little different here, and the gift shop is what you see when you come in, and you can, I suppose, come out and then come back in and buy something. But like I said, some of the items in here might be considered a little spicy, not for everybody's taste, not for everybody's humor, or whatever. And so the question for that I have about that, for people who get upset about those kind of things, is look around.
Absolutely.
There's so much in Salem. I'll put up a couple photos right now as I talk of things that I took pictures of today on my walk over here, that are, to my mind, in questionable taste. Doesn't mean I don't think they should be sold or whatever. That's a separate conversation. But these things exist. So if you could speak to that.
There's a lot of stigma with the name of my business, the Museum of Torture. They don't like that word, and that is public. That's being viewed for everyone to see. So I think a lot of people are thrown off by that. But then, I mean, you can walk 2 blocks down the street and you can put your kid in a child-sized stocks, and I don't think you really know what you're doing. But that's a torture device. It's public humiliation, so that could be considered.
First of all, what he described is a pillory, and I do have one, and it is a torture device. People always tell me it's uncomfortable, and I say, well, it is a torture
built
device.
For comfort.
They didn't pay for the upgraded model with the padding and the comfortable height.
Yeah, they sell those now. There's a lot of things I would consider questionable. They're just not all in one area, and I think that it's hard to be not hypocritical by giving criticism to a business that's very open about what they're doing. Um, and then going down the street and putting your head in a family-sized stocks.
And also, what were you going to call the place? Like enhanced
Well,
interrogation?
I've had this conversation with multiple people, both in the city and surrounding areas, and customers that are confused as to why I would name it this. But there is literally nothing else I would call it. I don't want to be um, confusing at all. I want you to know exactly what you're coming into. I wouldn't want to trick you into something that's clearly not for everybody. But it's even with the name Salem Museum of Torture, they come in and they say, "What is this?" Um, Even though it's in the name, that they're expecting a haunted house. However, it's just not. It's unique to the East Coast, really. We don't have anything like this here, and people are not going to take to it easily right away. But those are also the people that don't ever come in here. So I'm not really like working to please people that can't be pleased about a subject that they're not interested in.
Yeah. I guess a question that a lot of people might have is, okay, but then why did you choose Salem?
Well, I think a lot of people come here for dark history, obviously. A large percentage of them, anyway, do. And this wouldn't work anywhere else other than a tourist city. It's not going to grab the attention of somebody in the Nebraska or like the middle of nowhere. Like this is like something that families will come to or couples will come to and want to learn together because they're already here. People don't go out of their way for a torture museum. It's not like a destination that people go to. Um, so it's here. I've lived in Salem for almost 20 years now, and I've seen the change of the city. It's gone from basically a dead city for 90% of the year, other than September, October, until now it's thriving all year round. And the city will grow regardless. It's going to grow and it's going to change constantly, yearly. And things will come in that are good, things that will come in that are not so good, but either way, I think everybody has a right to be here and do what they want to do. There's something for everybody. It's not just about dark history. It's not just about the witch trials. It's so much more than that. But I think that people are happy that they have a variety to choose from now instead of the same things over and over again.
Well, there's the Witch History Museum, the Witch
Witch Dungeon
Village,
Museum.
the Witch Wax Museum, the Witch Dungeon, the Witch Museum. Yeah. So there's a lot of witchy stuff. So something you've brought up a couple times is the idea of dark tourism.
Mhm.
And actually, I just wrote a paper. I'm in college right now. I wrote a paper about Salem and tourism.
Mhm.
And we had to do what they call audience evaluations, where you ask,
Right.
yeah. So I had to ask my classmates what they knew about, certain things, and I asked about dark tourism, and most of them were unfamiliar with the term.
Mhm.
But I think people do it all the time, and they don't even know that they're doing it.
They absolutely do.
So dark tourism is when you are someone who wants to visit a place because it's connected to a crime or a dark part of history or something along those lines. So like the Lizzie Borden House, Salem, uh, I'm blanking on other things, but there's plenty.
Pretty much anywhere they ghost hunt.
Yeah, ghost hunting. Which, by the way, I just got an ad on Instagram that they, even like the most respected businesses in Salem, House of Seven Gables, for example, they do ghost talks and ghost tours and stuff like that. So that's dark tourism. That's all part of it. There's different levels, sure, but it's dark tourism, and I think people like to pretend that there's maybe something wrong with being interested in that kind of thing, or I'm not interested. But the number one podcast and all those kind of things are always true crime.
Absolutely true. Morbid curiosity is a completely natural occurring thing in most people's brains. It's why public executions had thousands and thousands of visitors from all over. They would come to look at it because they were morbidly curious. And it's a lot of just curious people come into this place unsure of what they're going to get into. And then they get to the end and they said, wow, I learned a lot. It's not anything like I expected it to be. So.
Yeah, well, I tell people too that, you don't need to feel bad about coming to Salem to learn about the witch trials. And yes, I hope that you learn knowing something about the witch trial victims, which include one of my ancestors, by the way. I didn't know that when I started witch finding.
Oh.
But a friend of mine was doing, birth charts on the victims. She was like, Did you know? I'm like, no, I
Which
have no
one?
idea. Mary Eastie.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Anyway, I tell people, this is not new. In fact, during the trials themselves, the initial hearings had to be moved because the venue was not large enough to hold everybody from the village that wanted to see what was going on. So when you come to Salem to learn about the Salem witches, you're joining a very old tradition that goes all the way back to 1692.
Absolutely.
All right, so Chad, what would you say to the people who maybe they see the sign on the door and they say torture? That's a harsh term. I'm kind of afraid to go in there. What would you say to those people?
Well, I think I've actually gotten questioned a few times if I'm actually if I'm in there myself torturing people, but that is not what we're doing. That's not even legal. We are solely a museum, and we are here to educate. That's the only reason we're here. I'm not here to scare you. I'm not here to gross you out or ruffle any feathers. I'm just offering facts and just exposing you to maybe something that you weren't aware was going on. Plus, I more than anything, our bond with Amnesty means a lot to us, and I think our charity work is more important than anybody who has a problem with my business. So I will always deal with some kind of issue from somebody who has a problem with it, but I'm fully prepared to deal with it. And I think the benefits of activism and working together as a community, I just truly think that the benefits of activism outweigh any possible skepticism I could have about my business.
Okay, so and the items in the museum, how many of them are like historical items or reproductions?
So I think there's over 60, 70 items or pieces in the collection. 53 of them are authentic, and then the rest are rebuilt either from fragments of existing pieces that have long since disintegrated or just completely reconstructed scenes. We try to stick with authentic items because it's rare for anyone, even in the US, to have such a thing. They're super rare to come across. Most of the stuff in here was set to be destroyed by local governments because they do not like talking about that part of their history and they'd rather just wipe it out, which is another reason why people like us, I'm not the only torture museum, but we do swoop in and we try to rescue those items so that we can preserve it for future generations. There's something, I don't want to get all spiritual, but the items do have a vibe. They carry an energy to it. I'm a skeptical person, but I'm also a believer in the same right. There is something to be said about looking at something that has probably could have been the last thing somebody saw that is powerful to me, and it inspired me to open this place in hopes that I can make a difference and hoping that I can join forces with people just visiting with their families or you're on vacation, whatever, to really just help us pull it in together and help Amnesty as much as we possibly can because they're making a difference. Whether or not we'll experience that difference is in the air.
And if you're watching on YouTube, we'll put a link below so that you can donate.
Absolutely.
And on other platforms, I'll try to figure it out. I don't know how it works, but I'll try to get links down there. Okay, well, listen. So the Torture Museum, the Witchfinder, people are afraid of us, and so even other street performers have come to me after years of walking by me on the street or giving me a nod or something.
Yeah.
And then finally we'll meet out of character or something one time, and they'd be like, "You're totally different than I thought you would be." Like I was honestly afraid to talk to you.
I think this is where you and I connect. Is people are scared of us until they come through or they meet us, and then they change their minds immediately.
We're really
give us a chance.
Yeah,
I won't torture.
Nicest guys around. Yeah, nothing to be afraid of. Come say hi. Well, when I'm in character, but I'm not going to do anything terrible. I may make fun of your clothes or something, but other than this, is not going to get that bad. If you are interested in the dark side of history and can tolerate a little bit of showmanship, the Witchfinder says, check out the Salem Museum of Torture. And if you happen to be in town on October 18th or Halloween, October 31st, 2025, you can catch me from 4 to 6 p.m. giving a series of free talks and answering your questions about the Salem witch trials outside the Salem Museum of Torture. My events are free, But if you wish to enter the museum, you must purchase a separate ticket. Please consider donating to Amnesty International at the link in the description. Thank you.